6 weeks after the destruction of the Zorathian fleet at New Geneva, the Galactic Federation Council convened for an emergency session. The Great Chamber on Centauri Prime looked very different than it had during Ambassador Johnson's last visit. Many seats sat empty, as species that had supported the attacks on humanity were now too damaged to send representatives. Ambassador Peter Johnson walked into the chamber with a very different escort than before. Admiral Harper accompanied him, along with a full honor guard of human Marines. The aliens who had once laughed at human diplomatic protests now watched in nervous silence as the delegation took their seats. Federation Council Leader Mortek called the session to order with a trembling voice. Ambassador Johnson, Admiral, Harper, you have requested this session to discuss the new situation in our galaxy. Peter stood to address the council, but this time no one interrupted him with mocking laughter. The chamber was completely silent as he began to speak. Honored council members, 6 weeks ago I stood in this chamber and delivered Earth's final warning regarding attacks on human territory and civilians. I stated that if these attacks continued, Earth would stop pretending to be courteous. He paused and looked around the chamber. Many of the alien representatives avoided his gaze. The attacks continued. The Zorathian Empire launched a fleet of 300 ships against the civilian population of New Geneva. The Vectari Confederacy coordinated attacks on human supply lines and trading posts. You chose to ignore our warning. High Commander, Zekthul sat in the front row, his once proud uniform now bearing the marks of defeat. 2 of his forearms were in medical supports, injuries from the battle that had destroyed his empire's military power. As a result, Peter continued, humanity ceased its courteous behavior and revealed our true capabilities. The results speak for themselves. Admiral Harper activated a holographic display that showed the current military situation across the galaxy. Red zones marked areas where Zorathian and Vectari forces had been eliminated. Blue zones showed expanded human control. The Zorathian Empire has lost 78% of its military fleet, Admiral Harper announced. The Vectari Confederacy has lost 85% of its space-based assets. Both governments have formally requested ceasefire agreements. Council Leader Mortek spoke carefully. Admiral Harper, the Council requests clarification regarding Earth's intentions moving forward. Do humans intend to continue military expansion? Peter answered before the Admiral could respond. Council Leader, Earth's intentions have not changed. We seek peaceful coexistence, mutual trade benefits, and cooperative exploration of the galaxy. We always have. Confused murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Rigelian representative, a tall being with blue skin, raised a question. Ambassador, if your intentions remain peaceful, why did you hide your military capabilities for so long? Because, Peter replied, we hoped they would never be necessary. Earth joined the Galactic Federation believing that civilized species could resolve conflicts through diplomacy and mutual respect. We maintained our peaceful appearance because we wanted to give diplomacy every possible chance to succeed. The Centaurian delegate, whose species had remained neutral during the conflict, asked the question many were thinking. But why hide your strength? Why not reveal your capabilities from the beginning? Admiral Harper stood to answer. Because strength without restraint breeds fear. If we had revealed our full military capabilities when we first joined the Federation, every species would have seen us as a threat to be eliminated rather than neighbors to befriend. She gestured to the tactical display. Instead, we chose to appear weak while building relationships, gathering intelligence, and preparing for the possibility that diplomacy might fail. When it did fail, we were ready. Dr. Ryan Clark entered the chamber carrying a datapad filled with research. He had been invited to explain the scope of human intelligence operations during the years of apparent peaceful coexistence. For 87 years, Dr. Clark announced, human scientists, traders, and diplomats have been conducting the largest information-gathering operation in galactic history. Every cultural exchange provided intelligence on alien military capabilities. Every trade negotiation included strategic reconnaissance. Every diplomatic mission mapped potential threats and allies. The revelation stunned the remaining council members. They realized that humanity had been playing a completely different game than everyone else. The purpose, Dr. Clark continued, was not conquest or dominance. It was preparation. We gathered this information so that if we were ever forced to defend ourselves, we could do so effectively and with minimal loss of life on all sides. High Commander Zekthul finally spoke, his voice filled with bitter respect. You defeated us without even trying. How long could you have destroyed our fleets? Admiral Harper looked at him with something approaching sympathy. Commander, we could have eliminated the Zorathian threat 12 years ago. We could have ended Vectari raids 8 years ago. We chose not to, because we hoped you would eventually choose peaceful coexistence. Then why act now? Demanded Sisika, the Vectari representative whose voice still carried venom despite her species' defeat. Because, Peter said firmly, you attacked our civilians. You targeted children, families, and innocent people who posed no threat to anyone. At that point, continued restraint became complicity in murder. President John Carter's image appeared on the main communication screen, broadcasting from Earth. The alien representatives recognized him as the leader of the human government. Members of the Galactic Federation, President Carter began, humanity wishes to make our position clear. We do not seek to rule other species or control galactic politics. We seek the same thing we have always sought, the right to exist peacefully among the stars. He paused to let the translation systems catch up. However, the galaxy has now seen what happens when our peaceful nature is mistaken for weakness. We will not tolerate attacks on our people, our territories, or our right to exist. The President's tone became more serious. Earth hereby establishes the following policies for galactic relations. First, human territory as currently established is non-negotiable. Second, attacks on human civilians will be met with immediate and overwhelming force. Third, any species that respects our right to exist will find humanity to be a valuable ally and trading partner. Council leader Mortek asked the question that everyone was thinking. President Carter, how do we move forward from this point? Simple, Peter answered. The same way we always wanted to move forward. Through mutual respect, beneficial trade, and peaceful coexistence. The only difference is that now everyone understands that our peaceful nature is a choice we make, not a weakness you can exploit. 6 months later, Captain Morrison sat on the bridge of the UES Harmony as it approached a new trading station in the Vega system. The ship had returned to its diplomatic configuration, but everyone in the galaxy now knew what lay hidden beneath its peaceful exterior. Captain, Lieutenant Carter reported, the station is requesting permission to expedite our docking procedures. They're offering priority services for all our needs. Morrison smiled. The same aliens who had once delayed human ships and charged excessive fees now competed to provide the best service possible. Respect, it turned out, was much more effective than fear when it came to getting things done. The galaxy had settled into a new normal. Humanity continued to pursue peaceful relationships and beneficial trade agreements. But now their diplomats were treated with genuine respect instead of condescending tolerance. The message had been received and understood by every species in the galaxy. Humans preferred peace, but they were exceptionally good at war. Their courtesy was a gift they chose to give, not a weakness that could be exploited. Earth had kept its promise. They had stopped attacking once they stopped pretending to be courteous. And in doing so, they had ensured that true courtesy and mutual respect could flourish among the stars. The galaxy was a safer place now that everyone understood the difference between choosing peace and being unable to fight. Humanity had proven that the strongest species was often the one that chose not to show its strength until absolutely necessary. The news of the Zorathian defeat at New Geneva spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours, every species in the Federation knew that humanity had been hiding its true military power for nearly a century. The peaceful farmers and traders they had dismissed were actually the most dangerous warriors in known space. Admiral Harper stood in the war room on Earth, watching tactical displays that showed human forces across the galaxy dropping their disguises. Ships that had spent decades pretending to be cargo haulers revealed themselves as heavy battleships. Space stations that looked like simple trading posts activated defensive systems that could protect entire star systems. Phase 2 is now active. Admiral Harper announced to her staff, "All human military units are authorized to engage in active operations. No more hiding, no more pretending. The galaxy wanted to see what we're really capable of. Let's show them." Captain Morrison piloted the UES Harmony through the asteroid field near Kepler Station. His ship, no longer disguised as a diplomatic vessel, moved with the deadly grace of a predator hunting its prey. His target was a Vectari supply convoy that had been attacking human merchant ships for months. "Captain, we have visual contact with the enemy convoy," reported Lieutenant Carter. 12 ships, all heavily armed. They're carrying weapons and supplies to Vectari attack fleets. Morrison studied the tactical display. The Vectari had been confident in their attacks because they believed humans were too weak to retaliate. They were about to learn how wrong they had been. "All hands, this is the captain. For months we've watched these ships carry weapons used to kill our people. Today we stop watching and start acting. Target the lead ship and prepare to engage." The Harmony's weapon systems locked onto the Vectari flagship. The alien ship was twice the size of Morrison's vessel, but size didn't matter when you had superior technology and years of hidden preparation. "Fire!" Morrison ordered. The Harmony's main guns fired with devastating precision. The Vectari flagship exploded in a brilliant flash of light that could be seen from the other side of the asteroid field. The remaining 11 ships scattered, in panic, but they had nowhere to run. On the mining world of Epsilon Prime, what appeared to be a simple human farming colony suddenly revealed its true purpose. The farmers were actually military engineers who had been building a secret weapons facility underground for 15 years. Colony leader Tony Martinez activated the facility's main systems. Massive gun turrets rose from hidden positions in the ground. Missile silos opened across the landscape. The peaceful farming settlement became a military fortress capable of defending against an entire invasion fleet. "All units, this is Colonel Martinez," he announced over the communication system. "We've spent 15 years preparing for this moment. The Vectari think they can attack our supply lines without consequences. Today we show them what happens when they target human civilians." The Vectari attack fleet approaching Epsilon Prime expected to find defenseless farmers and easy targets. Instead, they flew into a carefully prepared trap. The hidden weapon systems opened fire with devastating effect, destroying half the enemy fleet in the first few minutes of combat. Across human space, similar scenes played out on dozens of worlds. Colonies that had seemed vulnerable revealed sophisticated defense systems. Merchant ships that had appeared helpless transformed into warships. The entire human presence in the galaxy had been a carefully constructed deception. Commander Kate Sullivan led a strike team to the Vectari military headquarters on Proxima Station. For years, she had visited the station as a trade representative, studying its defenses and mapping its weaknesses. The Vectari had welcomed her visits, thinking she was just another harmless human seeking business opportunities. "Remember, we know every corridor, every security system, every weakness in this station," Sullivan told her team as they prepared for the assault. "The Vectari showed us everything because they never thought we were a threat." The attack on Proxima Station was swift and precise. Sullivan's team moved through the facility like they had built it themselves. Security systems that should have stopped them had been quietly sabotaged during years of peaceful visits. Guards who should have been alert were caught completely off guard. Within 2 hours, the most important Vectari military base in the sector was under human control. The aliens who had spent months planning attacks on human colonies found themselves prisoners in their own headquarters. Dr. Ryan Clark activated a special communication system that had been hidden in his research facility for decades. The system connected directly to the home worlds of every species that had attacked humanity. His message was simple, but devastating. "To all species that have targeted human civilians, this is Dr. Ryan Clark of the Human Science Division. For years you have welcomed our researchers, our traders, and our diplomats to your worlds. You shared your technology, your military capabilities, and your strategic plans because you thought we were harmless." The message continued as Clark revealed the true scope of human intelligence gathering. Every human you met was gathering information. Every trade deal included strategic reconnaissance. Every cultural exchange was a military operation. We know your weaknesses, your defense systems, and your military capabilities better than you do. The revelation sent shockwaves through alien governments across the galaxy. They realized that humanity had been conducting the largest intelligence operation in galactic history, while pretending to be peaceful newcomers seeking friendship. On the Zorathian homeworld, High Commander Zekthul sat in an emergency meeting with the Zorathian High Council. The reports coming in from across their territory were uniformly catastrophic. Human forces were systematically destroying Zorathian military installations with surgical precision. "How is this possible?" demanded Council Leader Thekmor. "Our intelligence said humans were a weak species with limited military capability." Zekthul's forearms shook with rage and humiliation. "Our intelligence was wrong. The humans have been deceiving us for decades. Every peaceful gesture, every diplomatic mission, every trade agreement was part of a massive military deception." The tactical reports continued to arrive, each one worse than the last. Human forces had destroyed the Zorathian shipyards at Vega 7, captured the supply depot at Kepler Minor, and eliminated 3 entire attack fleets. The Zorathian Empire's military power was being systematically dismantled. "Sir," reported a communications officer, "we're receiving a message from the human Admiral Harper. She's requesting to speak directly with the High Council." Admiral Harper's image appeared on the main screen. Her expression was calm and professional, but her words carried the weight of absolute authority. "High Commander Zekthul, members of the Zorathian High Council, this is Admiral Lisa Harper of Earth Command. As of this moment, your attacks on human territory have ceased, not because you chose to stop, but because you no longer have the capability to continue." The council chamber fell silent as Harper continued. "Your military forces have been neutralized. Your supply lines have been severed. Your strategic installations have been captured or destroyed. This war is over." Zekthul tried to maintain his dignity despite the catastrophic defeat. "What are your terms, human?" "Immediate withdrawal of all Zorathian forces from human space. Reparations for damages caused to human colonies. Formal recognition of human territorial claims. And most importantly, an understanding that humanity's courtesy is a choice, not a weakness." The Admiral's image disappeared, leaving the Zorathian leaders to face the reality of their situation. They had attacked what they thought was a weak species and discovered they had challenged the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Across the galaxy, other species that had dismissed humanity as harmless began to reconsider their positions. The humans had proven that being peaceful and being powerful were not mutually exclusive. They had chosen diplomacy not because they were weak, but because they were strong enough to afford patience. The galaxy was learning a new lesson about humanity. When humans said they preferred peace, they meant it. But when they were forced to choose war, they were very, very good at it. 48 hours after Ambassador Johnson's warning, High Commander Zekthul stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Destroyer of Worlds. Around him floated the largest Zorathian war fleet assembled in 50 years. 300 ships filled the space around the gas giant Vega Prime, their weapons charged and ready. "Send the message to all human colonies," Zekthul commanded. "Tell them their time for surrender has passed. Today we show the galaxy what happens to species that refuse to know their place." The message was broadcast across all communication channels, humans of New Geneva and all colonies. "This is High Commander Zekthul of the Zorathian Empire. Your representatives have insulted the dignity of our people with empty threats. Today you will learn the price of such foolishness. Surrender immediately, or face complete destruction." On New Geneva, the largest human agricultural world, 2 million civilians received the message with fear and confusion. The planet's governor, a woman named Linda Cooper, immediately contacted Earth Command for instructions. "Admiral Harper, we have 300 Zorathian ships approaching our system. They're demanding surrender. What are our orders?" Admiral Harper sat in the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains on Earth. Around her, dozens of officers monitored screens showing military positions across the galaxy. For the first time in 87 years, humanity was about to reveal its true nature. "Governor Cooper, Please evacuate all civilians to the underground shelters we built last year. Tell them this is a safety drill and they need to stay below ground for the next 24 hours. Admiral, we only have a dozen patrol ships in this system. How can we fight 300 Zorathian warships? Admiral Harper smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Governor, those aren't patrol ships, and you're about to learn what humanity has really been building out here. Light years away, Captain Jake Morrison received the activation code he had been waiting for his entire career. The UES Harmony, his supposedly peaceful diplomatic vessel, began its transformation. Hidden panels opened along the ship's hull, revealing weapon systems that could destroy entire fleets. The diplomatic quarters folded away to reveal tactical command centers. The Cultural Exchange Library became an ammunition storage facility filled with enough firepower to level a continent. His bridge crew shed their diplomatic uniforms and put on military combat gear. Lieutenant Ben Carter, the communications officer, was actually Colonel Ben Carter, a veteran of the Mars Rebellion with 20 years of combat experience. Captain, all systems are online, reported Chief Engineer Tracy Kim. Main guns are charged, missile tubes are loaded, and defensive screens are at full power. Morrison looked at his crew, no longer pretending to be peaceful diplomats. Ladies and gentlemen, for 12 years we've been playing a role. Today we stop acting and start being who we really are. The transformation was happening across human space. Every merchant vessel revealed hidden weapons. Every exploration ship became a military destroyer. Every trading post showed its true nature as a heavily armed fortress. On New Geneva, the 12 patrol ships that Governor Cooper had mentioned underwent their own transformation. The lead ship, commanded by Captain Steve Rogers, had been disguised as a simple cargo hauler. In reality, it was a Titan-class battleship with enough firepower to fight a small war. All units, this is Battleship Defender, Rogers announced. Drop the disguises and prepare for combat. Let's show these aliens why we've been so polite all these years. The Zorathian fleet approached New Geneva with confidence. High Commander Zekthul expected to find a defenseless agricultural world protected by a few small patrol craft. Instead, his sensors detected something impossible. Commander, our readings show massive energy signatures from the human ships. These aren't patrol vessels. They're showing as heavy battleships. Zekthul looked at his tactical display in confusion. That's impossible. Human ships are small and lightly armed. Check the sensors again. Sir, the readings are confirmed. We're detecting weapon signatures equivalent to our own capital ships, and there are more of them than we initially counted. As the Zorathian fleet moved closer to New Geneva, more human ships seemed to appear from nowhere. What had looked like civilian traffic and cargo vessels suddenly revealed themselves as military craft. Admiral Harper watched the developing battle from Earth Command. All units, this is Admiral Harper. You are authorized to engage with full force. Show them what happens when they mistake our courtesy for weakness. The first shots were fired by the Zorathians, who targeted what they thought was a defenseless human transport ship. The vessel absorbed the attack with its shields, then returned fire with weapons that no civilian ship should have possessed. The transport was actually the UES Thunder, a Wolf-class heavy cruiser. Its response was devastating. 3 Zorathian ships were destroyed in the first exchange of fire. Captain Morrison brought the Harmony into the battle zone. His ship, now revealed as one of Earth's most advanced destroyers, moved with speed and precision that shocked the Zorathian fleet. Target their command ship, Morrison ordered. Let's show High Commander Zekthul what human engineering can really do. The Harmony's main guns fired, sending energy beams that tore through the Zorathian flagship's shields like paper. Zekthul watched in horror as his supposedly superior warship took damage that should have been impossible. How are they doing this? He demanded. Our intelligence said humans were a peaceful species with limited military capability. His tactical officer's voice shook as he replied, Sir, it appears our intelligence was wrong. Very wrong. Across the battle zone, human ships that had spent years disguised as merchants, explorers, and diplomats revealed their true nature. The Zorathians found themselves outnumbered and outgunned by an enemy they had completely underestimated. Doctor? Ryan Clark, watching from his research station, transmitted data to the human fleet commanders. All units, I'm sending you tactical information on Zorathian ship weaknesses. Target their power cores and weapon systems using frequency 77 alpha. The information Dr. Clark provided came from years of peaceful cultural exchange with the Zorathians. While they thought he was just a curious scientist, he had been studying their technology and finding ways to defeat it. Within 2 hours, the Zorathian fleet was in full retreat. High Commander Zekthul's flagship limped away from New Geneva with half its systems destroyed, and most of its crew dead or wounded. "This is impossible," Zekthul said as he watched his fleet fall apart around him. "Humans are supposed to be weak. They're supposed to be peaceful." His surviving tactical officer looked at the damage reports with shock. "Commander, we've lost over 60% of our fleet. The humans, they were never weak. They were hiding their strength." As the battle ended, Admiral Harper opened a communication channel to all surviving Zorathian ships. "High Commander Zekthul, this is Admiral Lisa Harper of Earth Command. You have just experienced what happens when humanity stops being courteous. We gave you every opportunity to resolve this peacefully. You chose war instead." Zekthul stared at the communication screen, his forearms shaking with rage and fear. "This isn't over, human. The Zorathian Empire will never surrender to your species." "Commander," Admiral Harper replied calmly, "you seem to misunderstand the situation. We're not asking for your surrender. We're informing you that your attacks on human space have ended. Your choice now is whether you want to retreat peacefully or be destroyed completely." The message was broadcast across the galaxy. Every species that had dismissed humanity as weak received the same shocking news. The humans had revealed themselves to be the most dangerous military force in their sector of space. The galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson about the difference between being peaceful and being harmless. Humans, it turned out, were very good at peace, but they were even better at war. Ambassador Peter Johnson walked into the Great Hall of the Galactic Federation Council on Centauri Prime. The massive chamber was filled with representatives from 47 different species. The air buzzed with translation devices converting hundreds of alien languages into understandable speech. Peter had been Earth's ambassador for 12 years. He was known throughout the galaxy as a patient, reasonable man who always sought peaceful solutions. Today, he carried a message that would change everything. The Zorathian representative sat in the front row of the council chamber. High Commander Zekthul was nearly 8 feet tall with dark blue skin and 4 arms. His species believed that strength came from violence, and they respected only those who could defeat them in battle. To the Zorathians, humans were weak because they had never fought back. Next to the Zorathians sat the Vektari delegation. The snake-like aliens hissed softly among themselves as Peter approached the speaking platform. Their yellow eyes followed his every movement with obvious contempt. Federation Council leader Mortek, an elderly alien with gray skin and large black eyes, called the session to order. "Ambassador Johnson, you have requested this emergency session to address recent conflicts in human space. Please state your case." Peter activated his speaking device and looked around the chamber. Representatives from dozens of worlds stared back at him with expressions ranging from boredom to hostility. Most of them saw humans as complainers who couldn't handle the realities of galactic politics. "Honored council members," Peter began, "for the past 6 months, human colonies and civilian vessels have been subjected to repeated attacks by Zorathian and Vektari forces. These attacks have resulted in the deaths of over 400 human civilians and the destruction of millions of credits worth of property." High Commander Zekthul stood up without waiting for permission to speak. "The humans expand into our territory and then cry when we defend what is ours. Your species thinks it can colonize wherever it pleases without consequences." A wave of agreement rippled through parts of the chamber. Many species believed that humans were expanding too quickly and needed to be taught their place in the galactic order. "The colonies in question are all within legally claimed human territory," Peter replied calmly. "Each one was properly registered with this council and approved according to Federation law." The Vektari representative, A creature called Siska rose to speak. Her forked tongue flicked out as she hissed her words. Your species mistakes our patience for weakness. You build military installations and call them farms. You send soldiers and call them settlers. Perhaps it is time you learned respect. More murmurs of agreement came from the chamber. Peter had expected this response. For years, other species had been suspicious of human expansion. They couldn't understand how a supposedly peaceful species could be so successful at claiming new worlds. Council. Leader Mortek, Peter said, I request permission to present evidence of these unprovoked attacks. The council leader nodded, and Peter activated a holographic display. Images filled the air above the chamber, showing the aftermath of Zorathian attacks. Destroyed buildings, burned farms, and dead civilians were clearly visible. The attack on Titan 7 last week targeted a medical facility and a school, Peter said. 43 children were killed while attending classes. The residential complex on Delta Prime was bombed while families slept. These are not military targets. These are acts of terrorism against innocent people. High Commander Zekthul laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the chamber. War is not a game, human. If your species cannot protect its people, perhaps it should not claim so much space. You speak of protection, Siska added with a cold hiss. But your ships run instead of fight. Your colonies surrender instead of resist. A species that will not defend itself does not deserve territory. Peter felt anger building inside him, but his voice remained steady. This was the moment he had been preparing for. Earth had given him one final chance to solve this diplomatically. The United Earth government has shown remarkable restraint in response to these attacks, Peter said. We have followed proper diplomatic procedures. We have filed formal complaints. We have requested mediation and peaceful resolution. We have done everything according to Federation law, and accomplished nothing, Zekthul sneered, because you are weak. The chamber filled with laughter from several alien delegations. Peter waited for the noise to die down before continuing. We have been patient because we believe in the Federation's ideals of peaceful coexistence. We have been courteous because we respect the laws and customs of galactic civilization. We have been diplomatic because we hoped other species would show us the same respect. Peter paused and looked directly at the Zorathian commander. But our patience should not be mistaken for weakness. Our courtesy should not be confused with inability. Our diplomatic approach should not be seen as surrender. The laughter died away. Something in Peter's tone had changed, and the more intelligent representatives in the chamber noticed it. This is Earth's final diplomatic communication. On this matter, Peter continued, we are officially notifying this council and all member species of our position. He activated his personal recording device, ensuring that his next words would be transmitted directly to every government in the galaxy. The attacks on human territory and civilians will stop immediately. All Zorathian and Vectari forces will withdraw from human space within 72 hours. Reparations will be paid for damages caused to human property, and compensation provided to families of those killed. High Commander Zekthul stood up again, his forearms spread wide in a gesture of mock surrender. And if we refuse, will you file another complaint? Peter's expression didn't change, but his words carried a weight that seemed to fill the entire chamber. If you refuse, then Earth will stop pretending to be courteous. The translation devices worked furiously to convert his words into dozens of languages. As the meaning became clear, confused murmurs spread through the chamber. What does that mean? Demanded Siska. Peter looked around the chamber one final time. It means that for nearly a century, Earth has chosen to be peaceful members of this Federation. We have chosen to resolve conflicts through diplomacy. We have chosen to show restraint when attacked. He gathered his materials and prepared to leave. But those were choices, not limitations. We stopped attacking not because we couldn't, but because we preferred not to. We remained courteous not because we were weak, but because we were civilized. Peter walked toward the exit of the chamber, but stopped at the doorway and turned back. You have 72 hours to decide whether you want to continue dealing with courteous humans or learn what happens when we stop pretending to be something we're not. The ambassador left the chamber in complete silence. Behind him, dozens, of alien species tried to understand what they had just heard. Most dismissed it as empty threats from a species too weak to back up its words. High Commander Zekthul was the first to break the silence. Let the humans make their threats. In 3 days, we will show them what real power looks like. He had no idea that across the galaxy, every human ship, station, and colony was receiving the same message. Diplomacy has failed. Begin storm protocol. Show them who we really are. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the stars through the wide windows. The UES Harmony floated quietly near Kepler Station, a massive trading post where ships from many different worlds came to do business. Jake had been stationed here for 8 months now, and each day brought new problems. His communication officer, Lieutenant Ben Carter, looked up from his console with a worried expression. Captain, we're getting another distress call from the farming colony on Titan 7. The Zorathians hit them again last night. Jake closed his eyes and took a deep breath. This was the 4th attack this week. The Zorathians claimed that humans were taking over space that belonged to them, but Jake knew the truth. Titan 7 was in human territory, legally claimed and registered with the Galactic Federation. The attacks were just bullying. How bad is it this time? Jake asked. 12 dead, 30 wounded. They destroyed the main food processing plant and 3 residential buildings. Ben replied. The colonists are asking for military protection. Jake wanted to give them that protection. His ship carried enough weapons to turn any Zorathian attack ship into space dust. But his orders were clear. Stay peaceful. Be diplomatic. Don't start a war. Send them our standard response, Jake said. Tell them we're filing another complaint with the Federation Council and requesting increased patrol presence in their area. Ben looked frustrated but nodded. They both knew the Federation Council would do nothing. The Zorathians had allies, and humans were still considered newcomers to galactic politics. 2,000 light-years away on Earth, Admiral Lisa Harper sat in a meeting room deep underground. The Global Defense Council had been in session for 6 hours and the news kept getting worse. Reports covered the table showing attacks on human colonies, destroyed trade ships, and murdered civilians. The situation is escalating beyond what we can handle diplomatically, said General Robert Kim, the head of Colonial Defense. We have lost over 300 civilians in the past month alone. Admiral Harper studied the tactical displays on the wall. Red dots showed Zorathian attack positions. Blue dots marked human territories under threat. The pattern was clear and deliberate. They're testing us, she said quietly. Every attack is designed to see how we respond. They want to know if we'll fight back or just keep filing complaints. Dr. Ryan Clark, a tall man with gray hair who specialized in alien cultures, leaned forward. My sources inside the Zorathian Empire confirm this. They believe humans are naturally weak because we always choose peaceful solutions. In their culture, anyone who doesn't fight back when attacked is considered a slave species. Then they don't understand humans very well, Admiral Harper said with a cold smile. The meeting was interrupted when President John Carter entered the room. Everyone stood at attention, but he waved them back to their seats. The president looked tired. The weight of leading humanity through its first major galactic crisis was showing on his face. What's our current status? President Carter asked. Admiral Harper activated a holographic map of human space. 27 colonies under direct threat. 15 trade routes disrupted. The Vectari Confederacy has joined the Zorathians in their attacks. They're calling it a correction of human expansion. And our military response options? We have the capability to end this conflict in 72 hours, Admiral Harper said carefully. But doing so would reveal capabilities we've kept hidden since we joined the Federation. President Carter nodded slowly. For nearly a century, humanity had played the role of peaceful newcomers to galactic civilization. They had hidden their true military strength, disguised their most powerful ships as civilian vessels, and trained their soldiers to pretend to be diplomats and traders. The strategy had worked well for decades. Other species underestimated humans, which made it easier to establish colonies and trade relationships. But now that same perceived weakness was attracting attacks from species who saw humans as easy targets. On Kepler Station, Commander Kate Sullivan walked through the crowded marketplace. She appeared to be a simple trade liaison, negotiating deals for human merchant ships. In reality, she was the head of Earth's Special Operations Division, and every merchant on the station was actually a highly trained military operative. Kate stopped at a small cafe where she met with Tony Martinez, who ran a shipping company that transported goods between human colonies. To anyone watching, they were just two humans discussing business over coffee. "The Zorathians are planning something big," Tony said quietly. "My sources say they're gathering a fleet near the Vega system. Target unknown, but the size suggests they're planning to hit a major population center." Kate nodded while pretending to read shipping manifests on her tablet. "New Geneva? That's my guess. 2 million civilians, and it's our most successful agricultural world. Destroying it would send a message to every human colony." Kate finished her coffee and stood up. "Keep monitoring their fleet movements. I'll send word to Earth." Meanwhile, Captain Morrison received new orders from Earth Command. The message was brief and coded, but he understood perfectly. Begin Phase 1 preparations. The Harmony and every other diplomatic vessel in human space began subtle modifications. Hidden weapon systems were checked and prepared. Military personnel disguised as civilian crew members began reviewing combat protocols they hadn't used in years. Dr. Clark finished his final report on Zorathian military capabilities and cultural psychology. His research, conducted under the cover of peaceful scientific exchange, had given Earth detailed knowledge of their enemies' strengths and weaknesses. The Zorathians thought he was just a curious scientist interested in their history. They had no idea he was planning their defeat. The last piece of the puzzle fell into place when Ambassador Peter Johnson received his instructions for the upcoming Federation Council meeting. For months, human diplomats had been filing formal complaints about the attacks, following proper galactic legal procedures, and requesting peaceful solutions. But President Carter had decided that peaceful solutions were no longer possible. The galaxy had mistaken human courtesy for weakness and diplomatic restraint for inability to fight. It was time to correct that misunderstanding. Admiral Harper sent a coded message to every human military unit in the galaxy. The message contained just 4 words: "Prepare for storm protocol." Across human space, soldiers who had spent years pretending to be farmers, traders, and diplomats began preparing for war. Ships disguised as cargo vessels powered up hidden weapon systems. Space stations that appeared to be simple trading posts revealed their true nature as military fortresses. Earth was about to show the galaxy why humans had been so polite for so long. It wasn't because they were weak. It was because they were dangerous, and they preferred not to prove it.